by Yahuwah, you will turn right around and catch that same flu.
Mm-hmm.
Because now they are contaminated. They are nothing more than carriers. And that's why they scare people. They tell people, if you go home, go ahead and get it now and get it over with. That's crazy.
Right.
There is no logic in that. Not our logic. That's their logic. I'm going to contaminate you so you can contaminate others, but you'll be all right.
Right.
No, that's not what we do. Very important for us to understand. Very important for us to understand.
That's right.
You don't want to be contagious. You don't want to walk in that. And so he's saying, I will not allow these things to be upon your life. And watch this. And even if we get in the company of those, because when you go to the store, you don't know who has had what. You don't know when you pick up some canned goods. You don't know who's touched those canned goods, and you don't know if they washed their hands. You don't know if you've opened a door, who went before you opened that door. You don't know when you walk into the atmosphere, who've been sneezing and breathing all over the place without covering their mouths.
Right.
But the thing that protects us is our obedience in Yahuwah. He's going to protect us and make sure that we don't suffer these things. And it is so. Thine eye shall not pity them. The false pity of fools destroys all justice. Y'all hear that?
Yes.
The false pity of fools destroys all justice. Well, we let the children and we let the women and children live. The pity of all fools destroys justice. All justice. If he says destroy them all, that's exactly what he means. He didn't say have pity on this one. He didn't say have pity on that one. He said destroy them. And if you start trying to have pity, you are a fool. I'm a fool if I walk into that.
Right.
Because now I have just disobeyed a direct order from Yahuwah. Are you following me?
Yes.
We can't do that. And that was what was our ancestors and forefathers' downfall. They had pity when they didn't have pity on us.
Right.
They showed no pity on us. He said, don't show any pity. That will be a snare unto thee. If through pity you spare the corrupt peoples, you will eventually be contaminated by their corruption. For each one of their gods will be a snare. You can't, and I can't, we can't do that. When we do that, we step outside of the instructions of Abba Yahuwah.
That's right.
Never try to take your reasoning and try to stand and oppose the things of Abba Yahuwah. If he said don't do it, don't do it. If he said do it, do it. It's important that we understand that. Now understand something. I'm not advocating go out here and start busting people across their heads. I'm not advocating that. But what I am advocating is when Yahuwah says cut them off and leave alone, that's exactly what he means. And when you began trying to rationalize and start trying to say, well, it's not that bad. I'm going to get them. They're not going to get me. That's when we've already messed up because they've already gotten us. Are you following me?
Yes.
We have to be careful. And when he says do it, do it. And if somebody else is giving the instructions to do it, you get out of the way because it's not for you to come standing up trying to forbid them from doing it.
Right.
Move out of the way. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand these things. And he said, if we don't, then what happens is it becomes a snare to us and we become contaminated by their corruption. And even their powers will be a snare unto us. If we begin to walk, and you have to understand, once again, how can two walk together except there be an agreement? You cannot walk with people except there is some type of agreement to walk with them in.
That's right.
If you know they're not walking in truth and you are still buddies with them, that poses a problem. And this is why I tell people, and people may look at me silly and think, well, that I don't see it that way because we can draw them. You're constantly going to church on the first day. You're constantly singing and you're constantly proclaiming these false names and constantly promoting titles instead of calling him by his name. And when you are going to these places, when that preacher gets up and preaches, he is not teaching or she is not teaching to build your belief in Yahuwah and Yahush. Their whole belief system is built upon Roman Catholicism. I don't care how many Hebrew words they throw out. I don't care how many times they try to tell you, I am a Hebrew. If they continue to vacillate and continue to use the name that is not his and his son's, that is something you need to get out of.
Right.
Because eventually you will begin to accept it and you will begin to say this is truth and it is not. Y'all hear me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand. You're going to be an advocate. Listen to me carefully. You're going to be an advocate, watch this, of division when you begin to speak truth. Because everybody is not going to accept truth. And when you begin to lay the line down and you begin to show from the writings and you begin to tell them from the writings, we cannot continue to do this, there is going to be division because everybody's not going to accept it. Right. Some of our people have accepted for so long that it's okay to do these things that now they promote this and they try to promote two styles. You cannot do it. You cannot in one breath promote Yahushua and in the next breath say that Jesus is Lord. You cannot, because how are you esteeming the Abba through his son Yahushua when you continue to promote these names and these titles? Very important for us to understand that. Whether we like it or not, these are some of the things that's going to follow us because we're speaking and spreading truth. He said it'll become a snare unto you. He doesn't lie. And it has become a snare unto our people. And this is why you have people that will celebrate the Shabat, but then on first day be in church. Because they're saying, well, we're doing what we're supposed to do. We're keeping the Shabbat. And then what is wrong with worshiping him on the first day? The point is you're not worshiping him on the first day when you're going to church. You are going into a church that is set up and says we're worshiping God. It's important. Somebody would say, well, you are against worshiping on the first day? Absolutely not, because I worship him every day of my life. But I'm talking about the structured worship where when you go in, you know exactly what you're going to be saying and exactly what you're going to be doing. This is a snare because you have many people saying, well, why should I come out of Christianity if you all are constantly coming back into Christianity? We have to make a stand. It's tight, but it's right. Many people may not like it. Many people may unfriend me, but that's all right. I'm not about numbers. I am about spreading truth. Yeah. And when you spread truth, you're going to ruffle some feathers. But it's better to have our feathers ruffled now than to stand before Yahuwah and be dismissed because we continue to allow ourselves to be snared into these doctrines and to the way people do things. Are y'all hearing me? Yes. Very important. We cannot vacillate. Unto Pharaoh and unto all Mitzrayim, though they were numerically superior to you, Yahuwah destroyed them. And so will he do to the other people who outnumber you, who outnumber us. Are y'all following me? Yes. Because there are people that outnumber us. Excuse me. Mighty hand, that is the pestilence. He sent upon the Mitzrayim, and outstretched arm alludes to the smiting of the firstborn. He said, I'm not going to allow these things to happen to you. Remember, there is a condition behind this. If the condition is not met, then these things will happen. And guess what? We're seeing these things happen. Yes. And it is so. It is so. The hornet, a flying insect which injects a poison, a form of leprosy. It injects poison. We've never been stung by a hornet. Are you hearing me? May have gotten hit by a wasp, but not a hornet. And you don't want to get with that. Even when you ever get stung by something, you know how it causes you to bloat and it disfigures and even cause discoloration of that area that gets hit. We don't want that to happen. Are y'all following me? Yes. And have y'all, I believe it's the hornets, have y'all heard, it's been going around for years, even when we were in Christianity, you heard about it, where they were talking about the killer bees. But have you noticed, I think in the past, maybe 3 or 4 years, they were talking about hornets. Yeah. Remember when they talk about them hornets about the size of hummingbirds? Yeah, in Japan, yeah, they talk, and they're about the size of hummingbirds. And when they hit you, they are lethal, and they kill people. So understand, it is not a myth; it is real. Right. These things are real. And it is so.
And it is so.
All right, let us continue reading, please, starting at verse 20. Let's read 8 verses. I'm sorry, 21. 21.
Verse 21. Do not be terrified by them, for Yahuwah your power who is among you is a great and awesome Savior. Yahuwah your power will drive out those nations before you little by little. You will not be allowed to eliminate them all at once, or the wild animals will multiply around you. But Yahuwah your Savior will deliver them over to you, throwing them into great confusion until they are destroyed. He will give their kings into your hand, and you will wipe out their names from under Shemaim. No one will be able to stand up against you. You will destroy them. The images of their power you are to burn in the fire. Do not covet the silver and gold on them. Do not take it for yourself, or you will be ensnared by it, for it is detestable to Yahuwah your Savior. Do not bring a detestable thing into your house, or you, like it, will be set apart for destruction. Utterly abhor and detest it, for it is set apart for destruction. Chapter 8, verse 1. Be careful to follow every command I am giving you today, so that you may live and increase and may enter and possess the land that Yahuwah promised on oath to your avot. Remember how Yahuwah your Savior led you all the way in the desert these 40 years, to humble you and to test you in order to know what was in your heart, whether or not you keep his commands. And it is so.
And it is so. Now, once you look at everything that has been placed before us, he's letting us know these things have to be done. Now, you have to understand something. Yahuwah is not going to disrupt the natural flow of nature. He's not going to disrupt the natural flow of nature. And if we understand during that time, and even now, you see wild animals, and wherever blood is shed and there's a lot of bodies, you're going to draw animals, especially animals that are what you call them? They eat they're scavengers. Animals that eat dead carcasses. So with that many dead bodies, the animals would increase because why? They would come around because they knew that would become a feeding ground. And so Yahuwah, once again, never disrupted the natural cycle of nature. He never disrupted those things, but he allowed it to continue. Now, once again, you have to understand the wisdom of our Savior. The wisdom of our Savior, where he was not willing, because watch this, that would have put them in danger. Because now, not only would they be eating the dead carcasses, but they would begin to attack the live people. So it's important that we understand. Are you following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand that. Now, thou shalt not be frightened at them. Instead, fear Yahuwah, who is great and awful. In other words, he's the only one that can do. Now, look, it says the silver or the gold that is on them, the ornaments of the idols. We don't take the ornaments of the idols. Leave the gold, leave the silver. In other words, you say, well, that's the idol. But if we don't do the idol, we can get this because that is profitable, or it is it has a price on it. It has no price to Yahuwah. It is an abomination. So we have to leave it. Now, somebody would ask me, well, what do you mean by that? I'm going to show you. Wherever we are giving praise to Abba Yahuwah, that praise ought to be authentic. Now, somebody would say, well, y'all use the song. We use the song, but we remove the name. Are you following me?
Yes.
Now, even with that being said, we know that we can praise him and we can utilize that because that is a song that can be changed.
Okay.
But when you are turning around and you are using, let's say, the music of a song that you know the lyrics are an abomination unto Abba Yahuwah, but you desire to put words to it, that's unacceptable. Well, somebody will say, but isn't that the same? No, it's not the same. Are you following me?
Yes.
Because this person was just giving praise to an idol. Are y'all following me? Somebody will say once again, but how do you change that if they are saying God and Jesus, and then you turn around and you change the names to the song? But listen to the song, in other words, the praise. We're talking about praise. Are you following me?
Yes.
Versus you going trying to get somebody that's in heavy metal, and you know their stuff is not giving praise to anybody but themselves, or even the very lyrics. Are you following me?
Yes.
Once again, not trying to justify how things are, in other words, trying to say, well, if you change these songs and you can use these songs, then why can't we change the songs? Once again, we're not using the music. We're not using the music, and neither are we using all the lyrics. The lyrics have been changed. There may be a few words that be in there, but when it's all said and done, it's changed. But when you go and you basically take, and the majority of our stuff, we sing some songs, but the majority of our stuff is original.
Right.
But you take a song that you know had, just was out there, and you turn around and you take that song or that music and you try to apply the music with lyrics for Yahuwah, it's going to be unacceptable. And even if we look at a song and we say no, we can't do that. That's just something we can't deal with. We can't touch that. We don't try to offer that up as a praise. Are you following me?
Yes. Yes.
We stick with that, which you can research in the writings and you can see in the writings. But once again, it is important that we do not try to take certain things and offer it back to Yahuwah polished up when he said don't do so. Are y'all following me?
Yeah.
Very important for us to understand that. Now, once again, somebody may say, but you all sing songs that used to be in Christianity. We don't sing all songs that were in Christianity. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand. We cannot mask over these things. When you do this, once again, it's just the same thing. And then it's almost like going in and you know there was a gold cross and you take that cross and you melt it down and say, I'm going to use this. Well, understand that was still a cross and it was gold. That is unacceptable. I don't care if you try to mold it into a menorah. It's still unacceptable because of what it was originally. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand that. We tend to try to take things once again and do what the writings tell us don't do. Do not try to offer it back unto Abba Yahuwah. We don't do that. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Once again, I know many of people will probably say, well, I don't see anything wrong with it. That's a problem. We have to see through the eyes of Abba Yahuwah and not through our own eyes.
That's right.
Because when we start trying to rationalize things, that's where we fall into trouble. So once again, we have to be careful of how we do things, how we present things. Lest thou be a snare therein. If you prosper with the precious metal taken from the images, you might attribute it to the power of the idol. So they're saying, don't do that. Now, many of us today will say, well, I would never fall into that. I would never get into that. But you have to understand, many do. Many will turn right around and use that and say, you know what? Hey, if the goal from that is causing me to prosper and I know where it originated from, then I probably can prosper just going and following that. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
We have to be very careful, very, very careful in this walk. It is a devoted thing. It is something which brings a curse. Far from the gold and silver bringing prosperity, they will lead to the destruction of your legitimate possessions. Once again, you can't put that what is sacred with that. You can't put that what is contaminated with that is sacred. You know the saying, one bad apple spoils them all. It is true, because when a bad apple rests up against another apple, because it is messed up and it is spoiled, it will spoil all the rest of those apples, and all those apples will begin to go bad. Any fruit you do that, any fruit that touches another fruit, excuse me, that is not well, it's going to mess up all the rest of the fruit. So it's important for us to understand those things. Once again, I know everybody does not agree with it and does not like that, but it is the truth. We can't take these things and try to sanctify it or put it aside and use it to offer to Yahuwah. Are you following me?
Yes.
Very important. All right. Now, once again, chapter 8. All the commandment. Not only those termed ordinances, but all commandments of Yahuwah are to be observed by Yasharal. Now, once again, and the reason I'm going to bring this out is because you have many people that believe, because we are scattered and not in the homeland, that all instructions and all ordinances are not to be followed by us while we are dispersed.
Right.
You have many that preach and teach, don't keep the feast. You have many that preach and teach, you really can't keep the Sabbath. You have many that preach and teach, there are certain things that we cannot do. Now, with that being said, do you think Yahuwah would tell us to do this in all our dwelling if he did not want us to do it in every place we dwell in? He didn't say just in Yasharal or just in Jerusalem. He said, in all your dwellings,
Right.
these things are to be kept. Excuse me. Now, with that being said, you have a many that believe, just like a many people that write commentaries, many people that write Bible dictionaries, anything. You have a many of people that just have that mentality that, well, we can't do those things. If you can't do it, it's because you made up in your mind that you're just not going to do it. You're not going to do it. But you have to make up in your mind, based upon the instructions that are before us, to do what's been given us instructions to do. Keeping the Shabat. Now, you're always going to find those that have the argument, well, we really don't know what is the seventh day. Well, we really don't know how we are to keep it. He said on the seventh day, which is the Sabbath. And that what is before us, that is what we utilize, and that is what we use. Are you following me?
Yes.
Remember, he told us in the writings, in the Hadash, he said that whatever is needed, that the Ruach Kodesh will bring it to our remembrance, or bring it to us. When we begin to really strike out and walk in truth, he is going to correct us in the areas that we need to be corrected through the Ruach Kodesh. He's not going to allow us to go astray, especially when we're doing everything we know within our heart to live right and do right. It is when we are vacillating that we cannot lock it down and say intelligently and confidently that we're going to do these things. Are you following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand. Now, once again, the problem comes in is with us fighting and bickering over things that we ought not be bickering and fighting over. That just should not be. Because you have one person that will oppose this time, you'll have another person that will oppose that time, and then you'll have those that won't do anything and say, because we are not at home, we can't do anything. But just say we're Hebrews. And just walk around and we don't show the world no different. We just say we're Hebrews and that's it. We show no kind of lifestyle. We do nothing because we say we can't have it done except, tell people about it. But to show it, we show nothing. Are you following me?
Yes.
Very important that we understand that. So that we don't find ourselves fighting because we have misinterpreted or we have misunderstood the writings. Once again, he didn't bring us out of darkness for us to vacillate and continue to walk in darkness. He brought us out so that we could live and walk in truth. Excuse me. Thou shalt render all the way. Their experience in the wilderness where they received their daily bread in a supernatural way proved that obedience to the instructions of Baba Yahuwah was the sure means of achieving security when Yahuwah provided their needs miraculously. Very important for us to understand, because I don't believe at times we believe that he is a healer. I don't believe at times we believe that miracles can be wrought at the hand of Yahuwah through Yahush, our Mashiach in our lives. And so we tend to do everything and we don't give room through our belief to receive miracles. He is still a miracle worker. He is still a healer. He is still a deliverer. But there are times we do not believe that. And the reason we don't believe that is because we don't see enough of it. How can we see enough of it if our belief is not being built and operated in that area? You have to operate and you have to work your belief.
That's right. That's right.
If you believe him to be a healer and a deliverer, you've got to work your belief.
That's right.
And they had to work their belief. By them walking in obedience, he supplied their daily needs. And he will supply our daily needs. Whether it is emotionally, whether it is financially, whether it is socially, he will provide it. But we have to believe him. Sometimes I believe the problem is we don't find ourselves focusing on that enough. We be so pulled in different directions that when it comes time for us to believe in a miracle, we can't even believe that he is our Savior and can't really believe that Yahush is the Mashiach. Because we have opened ourselves up to so much. Are y'all listening to me?
Yes.
Once again, I know a lot of times people don't like this, and a lot of people will fade out because they don't want to hear that. People want to do whatever they want. You cannot. And you have to understand, even with with music, there's music that I listen to, but there's music that I would never try to use the lyrics or the music to it to offer up to Yahuwah. I would never do that, because that is not music to be offered to him. Watch this. They ate deer, they ate roe, but you never see them offer it up on the altar. It was made and given to them to eat, but it was never given to them to offer up.
Correct.
So that's where we have to understand, so that people don't get the misunderstanding and basically say, well, you know, y'all sing these songs, because you know you're going to always have a person that comes to rebuttal it and say, but y'all sing songs, you do this. Yeah, but at the same time, once again, we're not taking that which is an abomination and trying to offer it up unto our Yahuwah. We are not. So we have to be careful in everything that we do. Oh, y'all hear me?
Yes.
He is our provider. To prove thee, the test was whether they would keep his commandments in more esteemed circumstances where they were able to provide for their needs themselves. In other words, just because you can work and make it and have that kind of money and have it now doesn't mean that you forget that Yahuwah is a provider. And I believe that's what happened to a lot of our people. We don't believe, because people will work, and the only time you will see them spend time with Yahuwah is during the Shabat. Because they will work 6 days out of the week, back to back, back to back, back to back. Why? Because I have to work by the sweat of my brow. Okay, but we still need to trust him. You work, but at the same time, you're not supposed to work yourself to death. And many of our people believe that that's what we're supposed to do. People believe that if I don't work and I don't do this, I can't eat. Well, you have to understand what if and when that time comes, you cannot work. If you have not believed him while you were working, how are you going to believe him when you're not working to provide for you? You can have checks coming in all from around the world, but you still better believe that Yahuwah is your provider, because when the check stop and that flow stops, then what you going to do? What are you going to do? It is important that we understand. We have to believe in Yahuwah. We have to believe in him, regardless of how things are going for us in our lives. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Now, he afflicted thee with the long journey through the wilderness, suffered thee to hunger. Before you was sent them manna, or with the manna itself, which was a light form of diet or bread, neither did thy fathers know. Once again, they were hungry. They were hungry. But the whole testing of that was to see, were they going to believe in Yahuwah, or were they going to digress back into themselves and began to complain and act like Yahuwah didn't know what was going on. This is why, once again, if we're not seeing the results we want, you need to check yourself and ask what's coming out of your mouth. Because praise precedes a baruching from Yahuwah. If you can't praise him, then surely you can't expect anything from him.
Right.
Why is it that we could go to a machine that gives out food, those of us that still go and, use machines to go in and get juice, water, or whatever? How is it that we can walk up to that machine and put a coin in and expect to get something in return, but then when it comes time to celebrating and serving Yahuwah through Yahush, we act like we just supposed to stand up there and say, mum's the word, he knows what's on my mind. He knows what I'm thinking. He knows how I feel. Well, then you ought to show him how you feel. And the more you begin to express yourself through praise and worship, the more you will begin to see him move, understanding with obedience as his partner. Because praise and worship without obedience is emptiness. This is why it's important that we understand. Because if we don't understand that, then what happens? We find ourselves vacillating. We find ourselves being like a tumbleweed in the desert, being blown here, there, and everywhere, and all over the place. Right. Because we're trying to find that person that's going to tell us something that's going to get us out of the situation we're in, when all we have to do is walk in obedience. Right. That's why you see so many people all over the place. Why? Because you have to understand, inside of us is the desire to know everything. And there's some things that are just simple as and plain as the nose on our faces. And if we will walk in that, we will see things. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
But we all over the place. Well, I don't like what they be talking about. I want to hear this. I want to hear that. Sometimes the very thing you don't like is the very thing you need.
Right.
But I don't want to hear that. I need something else. No, what you need is to listen how to be obedient so you can get the baruching of Yahuwah on your life. And that's just not talking about monetary.
Right.
Because so you can understand, you could be in a situation, you don't need money, but you need healing. And because of your disobedience, you can't get it. Because you can't believe him long enough for him to bring it to your life. Because now we start getting fearful and aggravated. And disgruntled. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
We need to slow down and let him do what he's going to do. And it is so.
And it is so.
Now, by everything doth man live. Life does not depend entirely on physical food. It also needs the power which emanates from the regions above, from Shemayim. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeded out of the mouth of Yahuwah. We have to learn how to live by and through his instructions. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important for our lives. Now, as a man chasteneth his son, and Abba does not punish his child to cause him to suffer, but to direct him on the right path of life. This was the purpose of the hardships and trials which Yahuwah imposed upon Yasharal during their wandering. The ultimate aim was their entry into the promised land with its rich resources. That's just like we see in movies, and you see stuff and it just really irks me to see these movies, and you see how people are, these children and young people are so obnoxious, and they have the gall to stand up and stand flat-footed to their parents, and they're so sassy and they're so disrespectful, but yet they want them to purchase them a brand new car. They want them to pay their insurance up for the year. They want to give them the benefits of what only a obedient and an obedient son and an obedient daughter are qualified to receive. But you want these benefits, but you can't get them because you're disobedient. Right. Now somebody would say, but my disobedience is because I want to walk in truth. Well, then the truth of the matter is, Yahuwah is going to baruch your life if you are not going to follow in the instructions when it comes to. Now understand, let me make perfectly clear how we have to handle this. If your parents are telling you you can't follow truth, then that's when you say, okay, no, I can't follow that. But if your parents are telling you you got to live a certain way in their home, you got to be in at a certain time, and you got to do certain things, if you disobey that, you're being disobedient to your parents. Right. There has to be where we distinguish when we are supposed to oppose and when we're supposed to walk in what is given. And we recall in the Hadashah, in the writings, when Yahush, when they went to Jerusalem, and Yahush was left back, and he was in the temple, and he was in there teaching, and the men were baffled, and they were confounded by how much he knew, only being 11 years of age, right? He was 11 years of age. He had not even gone through his bar mitzvah. He wasn't even 12 yet. Are you following me? Yeah. And when his Ima and Papa got to him, everybody went and they looked, and they could not find him. And when they found him, and she scolded him, and he told her, do you not know that I'm about my Abba's business? But let me show you something. After that, he went with them, and he did according to what he was supposed to do as a child. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
He did what he was supposed to do. You have to understand, as long as you are a child and you're under the governance of your parents, when they are telling you to do something that is right, you have to do it. You cannot heap both of them up and say, well, they ain't walking in truth, so I ain't got to obey nothing they telling me. That's a lie. That is a lie, because you don't have any other parents outside of them. And even the parents that will be over you and watch over you, you still have to understand. If they tell you don't take the car to come to class, then you take it anyway. No, if you want them to be to class, you go pick them up. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
There's still a right way to do all things, and Yahuwah gets the esteem from it. If we begin to be and rise up in anarchy, even in our homes, we cause dissension and problems.
That's right.
There is a right way to do everything. You know the truth, you walk in the truth. But when it's time for you to wash dishes, when it's time for you to clean up, walk in obedience and clean up. Because that's what you're supposed to do. Nowhere does it say in the Torah, well, if your parents tell you to clean up because they ain't walking in truth, disobey them. That's not true. But these are things that people heap together because what? It appeals to them because that's what they want to do. And then when you come under fire with your parents, the first thing you want to say is, oh, because they the devil and they not walking the truth. No, look at how you handle each situation. This is important to our learning and for our growth. Are you understanding?
Yes.
It's very important for us to understand. And so here, you must understand that chastisement does not come because he wants to destroy us, but it is to bring us in the way so that we can get what is promised to us. And once again, you can't expect your parents to give you something and you are blatantly disobedient and not doing what you know you're supposed to do. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
It's one thing if they tell you to eat pork. It's another thing if they tell you, well, if you don't do this and do that, this is going to happen. Let me tell you something. If you're in that position, you can rest assured, if you believe Yahuwah will get you out of that situation. Yes, he will. He will bring you out of that situation where you don't have to suffer under the hands of those that would oppress you, even if they're family. But he can't do it if you are being disobedient. Am I making sense?
Yes.
As they say, am I talking right? Seriously, we have to understand that because too many of our people are causing problems, and we will never win. You will never win your family like that. Your mishpachot, you will never win them like that. You have to know what to oppose, and you have to know what to walk in. Are you following me?
Yes.
If you're told don't do it, don't do it. Bottom line. And it is so. A great land. The superiority of the Kadesh land is fivefold, each particular being preceded by the word land. Brooks and waters and fountains and depths. Wells, irrigated and unlike Mitzrayim. In contrast to countries which have only muddy pools and canals. We call it canals. I'm sorry, canals. It's about canals. 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 And so it's important that we understand these things. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
It's very important for us to understand. And once again, I understand at times this is not popular because we are not attacking the Edomites, because we're not talking outside of that. It comes a time for everything. But this is the time that we need to study to show ourselves strong and holding fast in the belief that is given unto us.
That's right.
Many people don't like it. Like I say, if there was something being spoken of that was talking about Edomites, if it was something being spoken about land division, oh, people would be in it. But when you get to talking about how you were supposed to present yourself, oh, I already know that. But if we really knew that, then we would be govern ourselves by it.
That's right.
Don't tell me you know this and then you don't do it. That's important. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important. All right, let's read. Verse 9, let's read 8 verses.
Verse 9, and it reads, A land wherein thou shalt eat bread without scarceness, thou shalt not lack anything in it. A land whose stones are iron, and out of whose hills thou mayest dig brass. And when thou hast eaten and art full, then thou shalt Baruch Yahuwah thy power, for the greatness of the land which he hath given you. Beware that thou forget not Yahuwah thy power, and not keeping his commandments and his judgments and his statutes which I command thee this day. Lest when thou hast eaten and art full, and hast built great houses and dwelt therein, and when thy herds and thy flocks multiply, and thy silver and thy gold is multiplied, and all that thou hast is multiplied, then thine heart be lifted up, and thou forget Yahuwah thy power, which brought thee forth out of the land of Mitzrayim, from the house of bondage. who led thee through that great and terrible wilderness, wherein with fiery serpents and scorpions and drought, where there was no water, who brought thee forth water out of the rock of flint. Who fed thee in the wilderness with manna, which thy Abbas knew not, that he might humble thee, and that he might prove thee, to do thee great things at thy latter end. And it is so.
And it is so. Did you read to 18?
I think it starts at 16. Verse 17. And thou say in thine heart, my power and the might of my hand hath gotten me this wealth. But thou shalt remember Yahuwah thy power, for it is he that has given thee power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant which he sware unto thy Abbas, as it is this day. And it is so.
And it is so. Many people quote 8, Deuteronomy 8 and 18. And they say, but thou shalt remember Yahuwah thy Savior, for it is he that giveth thee the power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant which he swore unto thy Abbas, as in this day, as it is this day. Once again, many people take that out of context, because many people believe that is for them to prosper and nothing else. But if you remember at the latter part of that verse, he said that is what covenant. Remember what it says, that his covenant, which he swore unto thy Abbas, as it is this day, may be what? Established. The reason why we prosper and we get the things we get is so that the covenant can be established. When you have people that have money and they go out splurging and all they want to do is flex, them people have no idea and no connection to covenant. And this is why many times when me personally, I deal with people, sometimes it's heartbreaking, because people don't realize when you have finances, that is what the finances are for, to establish covenant. Well, somebody will say, well, we're supposed to pay tithes, we're supposed to give greens, and we're supposed to give peas and corn. You start thinking, even if that may be so, who are you giving that to? Right. Oh, very quiet, crickets. Because you ask them, okay, well, who are you sending your box of food to? Who are you sending these things to? And the next thing they will come up and say, well, we don't do that anymore. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
You will use that as a rebuttal, but then you'll turn right around and say, but we don't do those things anymore. You liar. You don't want to help anybody. You don't want to establish the covenant. What you want to do is wait, and when he comes, you're not going to be ready. That's right. I said liar. Because if you sit there and you continue to do what you do, you and your money and everything you have is going to perish. We have to be very careful of what we do. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
We want to fight and rebuttal things, and then when you're caught on the carpet behind it, now you want to say, well, we don't follow that no more. Then shut up. Then shut up. Very, just simple rule. Just be quiet. But once again, it's very important for us to understand these things. And the reason why I enjoy reading it verse by verse by verse, because he allows us, we are able to see the mindset and the heart of our ancestors and forefathers right before us. Right. There is no way you can tell me that when you read this, you cannot see the Ahab of Yahuwah, but also the stubbornness of our people. And then turn around and see it again today, mirrored through our generation. Right. Like we're looking at them when we look at ourselves. Because we're hard-headed. We don't want to listen to anybody. We got our own views. We got our own way of doing things. We don't want to listen to anybody. Right. And then when somebody comes with something that may be a little hard for us to swallow and digest, boy, we get wind in our jaws and we get tight by the head. Ain't nobody going to tell me nothing. I read the word and he speaks to me too. Well, if he really was speaking to you, he would humble you. Or no, you would humble yourself and know that it's in the writings. Right. It's in the writings. It's very important for us to understand. This is what's causing us, once again, to constantly be backwards and forth in things that we are now. But you look, and once again, this is one of the things that they use. Now, listen what he said. A land, in verse 9, thou shalt eat bread without scarceness. The Yasharites will find bread there in abundance so that its price is cheap. A land whose stones are iron. The hard and bright stones are suitable for building purposes. What you think to be stones will prove to be iron. For them to build. The strongest, alloy, or the strongest I'm trying to say, mineral. The strongest mineral that is out there. One of the strongest mineral. You ain't gonna bust through no iron no time quick or no time soon, especially when you know how to fix it. Once again, iron can withstand all kind of heat, and it can endure all kind of banging and beating. Because you can warp it and then turn right around and beat it right back into shape. So it's important that we understand that. And this is what he promised to our ancestors and forefathers. All they had to do was walk upright and do right. Very important for us to understand that. Now, Baruch Yahuwah, thy Savior. The purpose of Baruching Yahuwah after enjoying the produce of the earth is to remind us that everything comes from him. Contrasting the happy present with the bondage of Misraim, you will be moved to thank Yahuwah. We have to. This is why you can't gobble down your food. And, tradition teaches us to Baruch the food first. We say we Baruch the food. We thank you, Yahuwah, for Baruching the food that you've given unto us and clearing it of all purities. I stopped saying that because he's not going to give me anything to eat that's going to kill me. Are y'all following me? I'm serious. We're not Baruching something that we believe would kill us. But when you know where you're getting it is from clean hands, then you Baruch him for it, and then afterwards, which is most important, because we're showing him we thank you for when we were struggling and when we didn't have. Now I can say this, and this is a personal testimony of mine. When we were in Christianity, we struggled. We didn't struggle. We struggled to stay afloat. I can say seriously and with all integrity, we may get low, but we are not where we were. And we eat. We eat. We eat well. And ain't no government assistance here. We eat well. And even when money does get a little tight and short, all of our bills are paid. We may not have that much left, but we are not struggling. And we don't have to go and say, man, how are we going to do this? We got to do this and we got to do that. It gets paid, and he keeps gas in both of our vehicles. We drive them if we want to. If we don't, say, okay, we're going to reserve this. That's what we do. Or preserve this. That's what we do. And we give him, we're learning to give him baruchings, and we're learning to thank him after we've eaten. Because that is when it's most important. Because, see, you can thank him for what you're about to receive, and it can fall on the floor. Seriously. You can begin to thank him for what you're about to receive, and you have bugs fall on in it. But after you've eaten it, and you've tasted it, and you've enjoyed it, that is when you are supposed to give him thanks. Because you are telling him, every time I eat, every time you give me, I am reminded of your mercy and of your compassion. Very important. He says, then thy heart be lifted up. Why? Because we've gotten our stuff, and now we don't know how to say Todah. In time of affluence, they might forget their former state of slavery and the privations in the wilderness, and that Yahuwah sustained them in those critical times. He sustained them just like he sustained us.
Right.
And if we don't remember that, then shame on us. But how does this happen? When we start making and we start flourishing and we start moving, we forget.
Right.
And watch this. Not only that, but if you have the wrong influence in your life,
Right.
you will definitely forget. Because you'll be walking around thinking, man, don't nobody know how hard I had to work to get what I got. Well, you have to understand, it's not by your hand. Truthfully. Because if Yahuwah shut down every avenue, you wouldn't be able to do anything. We wouldn't be able to do anything.
Sorry.
So it's important for us to understand, not to forget. Thou shalt remember Yahuwah. To think of Yahuwah as the source of all power is a safeguard against the folly of attributing success to one's own abilities.
That's right.
This is why we Todah him every time. Because we never want to say, man, I worked hard to get that. You don't know how hard I had to work. It's something, watch this, it is a learned practice. It's a learned behavior. You have to learn how not to pat yourself on the back. You have to learn how not to praise yourself for the things you do. Because these are things that we used to do. You have to learn how to change your vocabulary. One of the things in my prayer time that I ask Yahuwah to help me to change my speech. Help me to change how I see things. Help me to change how I address things and how I even go about things. Because if we don't, guess what happens? We lose.
Right.
We will lose out and not even realize what we're losing until it's all gone. Have you ever had a bottle or had something and it had a tiny size hole in it? And you go back and it's full when you put it down. You go back, it's empty. I have one of them little torches. I like them little torches. I have a black one. And my son, a third oldest son, has one. He has a red one. And we both have one. And I have a black one, he has a red one. And he feel mine. Didn't know, but it has a hairline crack when you feel it. So I'm looking, it's full, and I'm like, man, I'm ready to torch me some stuff. We get out there, we're going to be burning some stuff in the fire pit. And man, we're going to have a great time when we get out here. I go to use mine, and mine is bone dry. I'm not talking about a little bit. I'm talking about bone dry like it had never been healed. Because that little hairline crack in there made it sip all out. We don't want that to happen to us. Are y'all following me? We don't want that. But our actions can cause us to lose if we're not careful. And it is so.
It is so.
If thou shalt forget Yahuwah, this will happen if they consider their prosperity to be the result of their own efforts. Because you would not hearken. As the ultimate reward for not hearkening, what will be the ultimate reward? Lack and loss. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
And it says, and as the nations that Yahuwah maketh to perish before you, so shall you perish, because you will not hearken unto the voice of Yahuwah your power. We don't want that to happen. And we see things happening, but we don't want that to happen. I know I don't. We don't want that to happen. Okay? So we want to make sure we're doing what we're supposed to do. All right, let's read. Let's go into chapter 9. Everybody's with me? Everybody straight?
Yes.
All right. Verse 1.
Hear, O Yahshua, thou art passed over Jordan this day, to go in to possess nations, greater and mightier than self-cities, great and fenced up to Shemaiah. A people great and tall, the children of the Anakim, who thou knowest and of whom thou hast heard, said, who can stand before the children of Anak. Understand therefore this day, that Yahuwah thy power is he which goeth over before you, as a consuming fire. He shall destroy them, and he shall bring them down before thy face, so that you shall drive them out, and destroy them quickly, as Yahuwah has said unto you. Think not thou in thine heart, after Yahuwah thy power hath cast them out before you, saying, for my righteousness Yahuwah has brought me to possess this land, but for the wickedness of these nations Yahuwah doth drive them out before me. Not for the righteousness or for the uprightness of thine heart does Yahuwah go to possess their land, but for the wickedness of these nations Yahuwah our power doth drive them out from before us, and that he may perform the word which Yahuwah sware unto thy father Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Understand therefore that Yahuwah thy power give thee not this great land to possess it for the righteousness, for thou art a stiff-necked people. Remember and forget not how thou provokest Yahuwah thy power to wrath in the wilderness. From the day you did depart out of the land of Mitzrayim until you came unto this place, you have been rebellious against Yahuwah. Also in Horeb you provoked Yahuwah to wrath, so that Yahuwah was angry with you to have destroyed you. And it is so.
And it is so. Very important for us to understand. Once again, this is why line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. It is important for us to understand what is being said. We are not getting the things we're getting because of our uprightness. It is because of covenant and promise. And this is where many of our people fall short. Well, you don't know, I am. Yahshua. I am from the tribe of Yehuda. I am this, I am that. And you start thinking, well, why are you throwing that all around? Look at how you govern and carry yourself. We have to remember it is based upon covenant why we are getting what we're getting, and because of the wickedness and the evil that was upon the nations.
Mhm.
Are you following? Not because we were upright people, because our people were not.
Yes.
And this is one of the things that is so heartbreaking when it comes to dealing with us as a people. When you sit there and you talk to people and their necks are so straight and their heads are so big, you couldn't even get it through a door if you could really see the size of their ego in their head. And they walk around with this pompous attitude. You don't know who I am. I am the child of Yahuwah, or like many like to say, I'm the child of the Most High. Don't you come at me like that. Don't you deal with me like that. When in all honesty, and when we look at it, you start thinking, first of all, we still got to get ourselves right. For the time we were born into this world, and the time we live outside of covenant. Now we are just getting in. We ought to be some of the most humblest people in the world. Because now we know what we were removed from through our ancestors. And now we've been given a choice and a chance to be put back in that place. And some of us are so arrogant you can cut through it. So arrogant and pompous and proud to be proud. And walk around, you don't know who I am. Some of them are so arrogant. And you try to deal with them in a casual way as a Cody. Or even some of you ox that have dealt with them. And you're trying to deal with them. They want to cuss you out. They want to defame you. I've had to talk to 2 people in this month or this season. And I said, first of all, what was I rude to you because I'm telling you I'm bringing correction? Where did I ever say anything nasty to you that you have to come back at me being nasty? Then they told me you on your toy box was supposed to be soapbox. I'm like, you can't even say that right. But anyway, I'm not on a soapbox. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
I've been told, oh, you just trying to come with this because you trying to tell me not to preach. I said, go back and tell me where I told you not to.
When people can't read.
Exactly. When people can't read, they can't learn. And when people can't listen, they cannot learn. When you are telling a person, and we are supposedly engaging into an intelligent conversation, and even though I hate debating, times it does turn up evolving into a debate.
Mm-hmm.
I hate debating. But there are times that when you are dealing with people and you are showing them, look, just read in the writings, just showing them, it turns into a debate. Right. Somebody would say, well, why would you debate with them? It's not the fact that I want to, but once you have put something out there, if you leave them hanging, how in the world are they going to finish it? Right. You got to finish it out. It's just like a marathon. People have to finish it out even if they are the last one in the marathon. And everybody has gone home. You still got to make it across that line. So when we start something, it is important to finish. I never tell people, and I do not encourage people to debate because I hate it. But there are times when you put information out there and people constantly coming back with foolishness. And they're being arrogant. The end of every conversation should be shalom.
Yes.
It's done. I have not talked or spoken ill to you. I have not called you out your name. So there is no reason for you to call me out my name. And so we walk away from it. But you never leave it open to the point that now it is never resolved. And even if you can't leave them with a shalom, you still make sure that when that conversation is closed out, you close it out so when you go to sleep at night, you don't have to sit up there and be worried about what your last words were to somebody that was ignorant. Because there are some really ignorant people out there, like I say, pompous and pride, full of arrogance. And you have to understand, when people start talking about y'all instead of us, you automatically know they have detached themselves from us. I don't care, great, grand, ugly, we all in it together. If you talk about my Ak or my Cody, You talking about me. It is never, well, y'all. That is why even in reading, I make the reference to us, we, ours. Because I am a part of this nation. And however our nation is looked upon, if you look at one individual like that, you look at us all like that. But when you deal with people that constantly separate themselves, they are not a part of the nation. Well, y'all act like this, and can't nobody tell y'all nothing. I had to ask one person, well, what are you? If we are Yashraelites, but you walking around with an Ibram name and you claim to be Hebrew, and then when somebody's telling you something, you get angry and you start saying, but we are this way, then what are you and who are you? We are that people. And it's important for us to understand and never separate ourselves from that. Because when we do, you basically are saying you are not Hebrew. You have to understand, regardless of how people may present themselves, if they are of this nation, whether good or whether great, bad, or ugly and indifferent, it is still us.
That's right.
And not them. We have to maintain that. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Because then people be looking at us like they already do. Y'all are never together. And you have to admit, we are not. We ain't gonna say, well, they ain't never together. No, we are sometimes not together. It's we. It's us. Ours. Because we as a nation, if we don't begin to stick together and truly admit it is us, then what are we out here telling people? Because you've already separated yourself because you feel like I'm not gonna be included in that. That's beyond me. The ignorant ones, that's us too. The stubborn ones, that's us too. The big mouths, that's us too. The loud mouths, that's us too. They are a part of us, and we are a part of them, contrary to popular belief. But it's never for us to say them. They acting up. If they are acting stupid, well, that's just some of us, out there being dumb. Are you following me?
Yes.
We just gotta pray Yahuwah deals with them. Are y'all following me? And the ones that's not, we don't fool with it. We don't waste our time with it. We go on. And it's so.
And it is so.
All right. He will bring them down. This alludes to the Anakim. These giants will have even less heart to fight them than the other people. They will hide in the mountains and in fortitude cities. I'm about to say cities. Speak not in thine heart after warning them against the danger of attributing success solely to human endeavor. Once again, we cannot continue to say it is at my hands that I have gotten what I've gotten. We cannot say no matter what takes place, I am going to continue to do what I do. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
We gotta find and follow the instructions that he's given unto us. Hear, O Yasharal, as proof that human success cannot be achieved without Yahuwah's aid. Moshe asked Yasharal to consider the invincibility of the land and the strength of its inhabitants, whom they were about to conquer. Once again, if Yahuwah says do it, I don't care if you don't have nothing but a stick in your hand. He's able to do what is necessary with that stick to give you the victory and cause you to conquer any and everything that he's put you to conquer. Problem with us, we start looking at what we have. I can't do nothing with that. What I'm supposed to do with that with all these people? What are we supposed to do with that? That's where our downfall comes in, because the word we begin to use is, what am I supposed to do with that? Instead of saying, whatever you want to do with it, Yahuwah, do what you're going to do. You're going to do this thing, not me. You're going to give me the ability and the power to do it. Once again, whatever he puts in your hand, do it. Isn't it amazing? And we're going to continue reading that when you look at comic books, and we like to read comic books, and we're into that. But if you notice, they took just a shield with Captain America, right?
Yes.
Just a shield. And he can take that shield and he can destroy nations with a shield. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
And he's a fiction character, right?
Yes.
He's not even real. He's fiction. But he could take a shield and he could destroy nations. And then when Yahuwah puts the Torah in our mouths or puts something in our hands, the first thing we look at and say, well, what am I supposed to do with this? Instead of saying, whatever you want to do with it, Yahuwah, here I am. I'm available to you. I'm making myself available. It's not by might nor by power, but by his ruach. Are we understanding?
Yes.
We can't go in trying to fight things in our own strength or only looking at what is in our hands, because when you do that, you forget who's backing you. You forget the one who has put you on the assignment. If he's giving you the assignment, he is going to back you with his power and his authority.
That's right.
Problem comes in, we don't believe that. Isn't it Daredevil that's blinded?
Yes.
And he has what, a staff?
Yes.
But he can go in and he can clear a whole city or a whole town or a whole whatever, and he's blinded? Fictional. But then we know truth, and we are awake and can see. But when we're told to do something, we have a problem with it. We stagger at it. We can't believe it. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand. Now, some people may say, well, I don't understand what that has to do with it. It has a lot. These are fictional characters. But somebody believed in the power that they possess, that they could do these things. We know the power we have comes from Yahuwah. And so if he gives us something to do, and it may be small to you and anybody else, but to him, it is what is needed to get the job done. And that's what we're supposed to do. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Most of the time we thinking we need, all this stuff. All we need is his instructions and walk in obedience. Because he's bigger and he's greater than anything else in this world. Who can subdue Yahuwah? Please tell me. Nobody. Who can bring his court system or his justice system down? Nobody. Who can change what he has done? Nobody. Just because the enemy has gotten in just for a season and altered some things doesn't mean that he has brought a major change. Important for us to remember that and understand that. It is how deep and how serious we are about our relationship with him, and we will believe him and take him at his word to the ends of the world. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand that. And it is so.
It is so.
All right, let's read. Let's read. Eight.
Verse 9.
Mm-hmm.
When I was gone up into the mountain to receive the tables of stone, even the tables of the covenant which Yahuwah made with you, then I abode in the mount 40 days and 40 nights. I neither did eat bread nor drink water. And Yahuwah delivered unto me 2 tables of stone, written with the finger of Yahuwah. And on them was written according to all the words which Yahuwah spake with you in the mount of the midst of the fire in the day of the assembly. And it came to pass at the end of 40 days and 40 nights that Yahuwah gave me the 2 tables of stone, even the tables of the covenant. And Yahuwah said unto me, Arise, get you down quickly from hence. For your people which have brought forth out of which you have brought forth out of Mizraim have corrupted themselves. They are quickly turned aside out of the way which I commanded them. They have made them a molten image. Furthermore, Yahuwah spake unto me, saying, I have seen this people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people. Let me alone that I may destroy them, and blot out their name from under Shemayim. And I will make of you a nation mightier and greater than they. So I turned and came down from the mount, and the mount burned with fire, and the 2 tables of the covenant were in my 2 hands. And I looked, and behold, you have sinned against Yahuwah your power, and have made you a molten calf. You have turned aside quickly out of the way which Yahuwah had commanded you. And it is so.
And it is so. Now he's bringing the discourse and he's showing them you have no right to act like you are so righteous. and that you are so upright. He said, now I want to remind you of what you did. And I was only absent for 40 days and 40 nights. And you quickly turned your heart in that matter of time. Oh, he ain't coming down. We might as well go ahead on and make us a God that we can see. And persuaded Haran to sculpt it and to get all the gold. Now remember, 40 days and 40 nights. That's not that long. And in that amount of time, they were changed to walk in error and to begin to worship. Now, mind you, the goal they had was not their goal, and it was not for them to do that. And they created a golden calf. Now, once again, the reason why we have to be reminded consistently, because the same blood that ran in their veins runs in ours. We have to be reminded consistently. Don't let your guard down. Consistently keep the commandments at the gate of your heart. Keep the commandments as the rule of your life. And many people say, the 10 Commandments, what is that? But you have to understand, we don't just adhere to the 10 Commandments. We adhere to the Torah. His instructions. That means from the Torah to the HaTorah to the Brit Hadashah. All of it is Torah. And if you really look at it, let me show y'all something. Why everybody wants to say, well, when you begin to look at the what they would know, what is known now in terms of the gospel, you have to understand that is the Besorah, the great news. But it was not considered the renewed covenant until after his death. So if you want to really look at it technically, the whole time that he was walking and he was talking about it, the renewed covenant was not established until after he had shed his blood. So each one of those will be considered a part of the first covenant. Because in order for a covenant or a testament to be valid, blood has to be shed. Right. So we want to be technical about it. You can look at those as being a part of the first covenant. Are y'all following me? Yes. First covenant and the renewed covenant, not a new covenant. And this is where people stagger. He said, I will put it on the tablets or on the flesh of your heart. Problem comes in. Many of people cannot grab that or cannot digest that concept. And so they fight and they continue to fight Yahush. Because they cannot grab that he is the son of Yahuwah. You have to understand something. When you ahab him, you listen. You listen with your heart. That's not saying that now we come in the truth. Now we don't listen and we don't take things and we don't go and research things. It means that we listen because we know he's not going to wake us up to have us go back to sleep. That takes trusting him. And that takes really studying to see that what he is saying is valid. Not just going off the deep handle and saying, no, I didn't see that, I didn't hear it, and I'm not going to do what you say, because nowhere in the first covenant is it in there. Did you look close enough? Or did you just look with your mind and your eyes and not really search it out in your heart? Many people don't. They go only by what they can reason to be true. If I can't make it logical and I cannot reason with it, or take it and cause people to have a rational understanding of it, then it can't be true. Because you got a lot of people say, well, he wouldn't accept a human sacrifice. Are you in his pocket? Who counsels Yahuwah? And who gives him the authority to do what he wants to do? Who are we to challenge him on the things that he has put before us? Yahuwah was given, or his offering was accepted and then given to us so that we would have an offering that would be acceptable. And you got many of people that fight it on a day-to-day basis because they lack understanding, and above lacking understanding, they lack relationship. Relationship. Because everything is based upon logic and me being able to connect this dot with that dot. And if I can't connect that dot, then it has no place. Well, there are dots to be connected, but because some of us can't connect it, is because we are really not walking in that walk and that relationship with him like we say. And that is where many of the problems come about. 40 days. 40 days. It didn't take them but 40 days to come up with what they came up with. And in that 40 days, you had a nation of people that was whoring and committing an abominable acts before Yahuwah. And he said, get down there. Now, everybody wasn't doing it. You have to remember, Yahushua, the son of Nun, was right there at the foot of the mountain, waiting on Moshe. Him and a few others. But everybody else, they was up there partying because they had lost hope, because they couldn't see to the end. When you can't see to the end of a thing, you will begin to assume, and you will begin to try to predict from your own perspective, and you begin to start laying a platform that has no, that can't be validated. And they began to do things because of fear. He's not coming back, so we need something to help us while we're out here in the wilderness. We need something while we're out here. We have nothing to rely on. Instead of relying and knowing that he wouldn't have brought us out of Mitzrayim just for us to get here and leave us. The song says, I know he didn't bring me out here to leave me, even though I can't see clearly. I know that you are with me, so I can't give up now. If many of them would have taken that attitude, many of them would not have died. If many of us would take that attitude, many of us will not die. But the reason many of us have died and will continue to die is because we can't move forward, because we can't see to the end.
That's right.
And this is a problem. And that's why you got all this stuff going on. This is why you got people in this, you got people in that. And then we start saying, no, y'all, we have to stop and we have to get to the foundation. Stay on the foundation of truth. Don't vacillate and don't get off. Because if you get off the foundation, what do you have to stand on? Nothing. And as we continue to look at their lives, you can see, really see what there were issues. Moshe, once again, and his discourse is telling them, y'all, remember what you were and who you were. We have to be reminded of who we once were. We didn't always walk in truth. We didn't always accept this as our truth. And so when you come out and you feel like, I don't need nobody to remind me because I'm straight, I ain't going backwards. But yet when it comes time to adhering and sitting and listening, we don't want to do that. We want to be everywhere else and doing everything else. Because we don't want to listen to that. We don't want to be reminded, once again, when you look at yourself in the mirror, there are times there is a mirrored view of our ancestors when we look in the mirror. We see them through us. Stubborn, stiff-necked, hard-headed. Say go left, well, somebody else told me to go right. Be still, well, somebody told me just to take a few steps backwards. I'm a firm believer in this. If you are following somebody and somebody tells you to do something and you come and ask me, I am not going to tell you to go contrary to what they've said.
That's right.
Now watch this. Well, what if they're saying wrong? If they are wrong and I tell you they are wrong, it is up to you to decide whether you're going to stay in that error or you're going to come out of it.
That's it.
But I'm not going to sit up there and try to basically drive you and basically try to cover you, and you already have somebody you're following. This is where a lot of problems come about.
That's right.
Well, I don't have just one teacher. I have more than one. That's your problem. Because if everybody's saying something different and you don't know how to digest all that, you're in trouble. You're in trouble, seriously. Because you're trying to eat. That's greedy. You're trying to eat out of from a whole bunch of plates instead of settling on one plate and eating from that plate and getting yourself to a point to where you are mature enough to be able to discern when something is said wrong and when something is being said that is right. That's why people all over the place. I know people don't like it, but it's not my problem. I can only teach what he gives me. And I'm telling you, it is a warning. Stop going all over the place. You're all over the place because you are not settled, because there is no shalom in what you are receiving. And then when you do receive something and it rubs you wrong, you get mad. Well, I ain't gonna stay there because I don't like that. Now, if it ain't truth, don't stay there. And I ain't talking about being in these places and people, and you know the Ruach HaKodesh is telling you, get out of there because that's error, that's wrong. You go somewhere, somebody tell you, you can't do that. No, I ain't staying there because they ain't gonna tell me what I can't and can't do. I'm gonna be like a rubber check and bounce. Because I don't want to hear that. This is a problem. Once again, when you have people going backwards and forth and going from place to place and I didn't like what they said, I didn't like what they were doing. Ask yourself why you don't like it. Before you start blaming them, ask why you don't like it. If it's wrong, get out of there. But don't just say, I'm not there because I don't like the way they do. I don't like the way they did things. I didn't like this and I didn't like that. Why didn't you like it? Well, it was wrong. Leave. But don't go out there on your own trying to do something that Yahuwah has not qualified you to do. Because if you do that, you're going to find yourself in trouble and you're going to find yourselves in the hand of the enemy. And boy, he's going to mold you the way that he wants to mold you. And he's not going to show any pity on you. He's not. He's going to take you and he's going to do everything he can to devastate you. Because that's what his job is, to kill and to destroy. First, he's going to rob you, then he's going to steal from you, and then he's going to destroy you. Mm-hmm. It's important that we understand that. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important that we understand that. People may not like it, but it's the truth. Now, this is what he said. Furthermore, Yahuwah spoke unto me, saying, I have seen this people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people. Because remember, Yahuwah told Moshe to leave him alone about this people. And Moshe would not let up. He said, no, you have to understand, Yahuwah, if you do this, then what are the nations around us going to say? They're going to say, did not their power bring them out just to kill them? Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Moshe stood in the gap as a leader, saying, Yahuwah, don't kill our people. Because if you do this, because look, he told Moshe, I will make you a great nation. I will put it all within your hands. Now, mind you, here it is, Moshe is dealing with all of this stuff. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
All of this. And just at one, yes, all them troubles and problems could have possibly been moved away. Mm-hmm. But Moshe said, no, Yahuwah. If you do this, what are the nations going to say? That takes a lot. That takes relationship.
Yes.
That takes relationship, and that takes a true ahab for the nation. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
That takes a lot. Once again, he's giving his discourse because he wants them to understand you got to keep this before you. If you don't keep it before you, you will forget. You'll forget. We can't let it slip and we can't forget it. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
He said, mighty. He said, so I turned and came down from the mount, and the mount burned with fire, and the 2 tablets of the covenant were in my 2 hands. And I looked, and behold, ye had sinned